Sharon and I first met when I was a freshman at State. She was in one of my core classes and struggling. Since I was on a mission to get lucky, I offered to tutor her. She was interested in my being her tutor, but not so much in helping me get lucky. When I started to pay attention to another girl in class, things changed. Playing hard to get only works if you have no competition. Although things changed overnight, it was still in a tempered sort of way. Available but not easy, best describes our courtship. After a slow start, we became the typical college couple, going at it morning, noon, and night. Here I sit now, 24 years later, about to embark on another adventure. This has been the toughest month of my life. You can't run away from yourself. Joy lifts you up while pain pins you down. I'd been wishing I was dead. The searing pain in my heart told me that there were things worse than death. There was no way I could pull this off on my own, so I enlisted my kids. They're all young adults now. I have 2 sons, Nathan and Matt, and Lynette is my eldest and only daughter. As much as they wanted to go to college out of state, when faced with the projected student debt, all chose to attend in-state universities. All 3 participated in multiple sports in high school, but only Matt dabbled once he entered college. Riding the bench his entire freshman year put an end to his athletic dreams. He was big, but not big enough to start as a collegiate offensive lineman. Lynette finished her degree last spring and has a decent entry-level job in town. She lives with a couple of young ladies. Matt is on track to graduate next spring and still lives at home. He's been with the same young lady since his freshman year. Nathan, well, how can I put this nicely, is on track to finish in maybe 6 years. He was a bit straight-laced and shy in high school. The college opened his eyes. Those eyes seemed to be unable to focus on his studies. After his siblings had a little sit-down with him, he seems to have changed his focus. He lives off campus, with an ever-changing cast of characters. Holding your children while they cry is something you expect to do when they're young. It rips your heart out when you're doing that with your adult children. After sharing the investigator's report with each, my job was to be their rock. It was as if a switch had been flipped. I had to be strong for my kids. I turned to stone. It's hard to explain it, but just like that, I was void of emotion. Nothing mattered to me. My kids and I were a team, and all of us had each other's backs. This weekend's party was the chosen ambush site. I arrived home late, on purpose. Sharon greeted me with, "I don't know what your problem is. You've hardly spoken a word to me in a month. Get your head out of your back. We have a backyard full of people. Try to be pleasant." I ignored her. Looking at the gathered crowd, I saw that people were enjoying themselves, including the few that I wanted to present. We have a mid-sized pool buried in our backyard. The lawn chairs were placed far enough from the edge to avoid the splashes from the kids enjoying themselves. As I was making the rounds, introduced myself where needed. I made a point to track down Beth. She remarried about 6 months ago. I was out of town at the time and missed the ceremony. Sharon has worked with Beth for at least 5 years. "Beth, good to see you again. This must be your husband?" "Yes," as she turned to face her man. "Hank, this is Chris. I work with his wife, Sharon." "Nice to meet you, Chris," was met with silence from me. Our handshake was unremarkable, and Hank seemed distracted. I settled into my place of honor. Sharon put a chivas on the rocks next to me, saying nothing. That tiny little attitude. That one. The caterer was busy putting the tins of Mexican food out. The free bar was swamped. After making small talk, Sharon's dad chimed in, "Chris, are you going to sing some songs before dinner?" I played in a band in my youth. Thinking that the only thing you really needed to succeed was a good band name, we kept changing names every month or two. Our gigs were in dives, and it was more like orchestrated drug dealing and cheating. We played our last gig as the Winking Pumpkins. Our real problem was loft. Lack of flipping talent. I looked like a cat making bread as I claw at my guitar. My voice barely carried a tune, but since this was my party, the gathered guests always gave me the obligatory compliments after each song. Nathan leaped to his feet. "I'll grab your guitar, Dad." I immediately shot back, "Don't touch the electric ones." A minute later, Nathan reappeared holding my cheap Yamaha 6-string acoustic guitar. I've got some really expensive electric guitars, but they stay out of harm's way. "Here you go, Dad. Can you play some Five-Finger Death Punch?" "No, but thanks for asking." Brought the usual snickers. He knows I can't stand heavy metal. With the guitar on my lap, I pulled my wallet out. I carry my favorite pick next to my credit cards. Matt stood behind Hank, while Nathan placed his hand softly on his mother's shoulders. Sharon was sitting next to her parents. Lynette waited nervously as I sang Clint Black's Killing Time and Little River Band's Cool Change. Such a pity that Sharon wasn't paying attention to my song selections. Lynette gave the signal we'd agreed upon by requesting, "Dad, do you know I met a friend of yours today?" "Well, I haven't practiced many George Strait songs, but I do know that one," I replied. As I settled in for my last song, a well-dressed gentleman appeared at Lynette's side. Looking at Sharon, I began. After the first stanza, Sharon had a somewhat bemused look on her face. As I continued, the words began to make sense to Sharon. Hank was starting to fidget. Sharon's bemused look had morphed into a very frightened one. Nathan applied a little downward pressure on Sharon's shoulders. She wasn't going anywhere. I turned to face Hank, who was sitting close to Beth, and then I continued singing. "I listened for a while and I could tell. That stranger there knew you much too well," I sang. It was actually my best friend, Mark, who clued me in. He'd been working at the same construction company for 20 years. Then Hank was hired. When Hank started bragging about seeing some broad with a cauliflower ear, Mark perked up. Sharon's right ear fits that description, and Mark was aware of it. That disclosure bothered me enough to hire an investigator. Staring into Hank's eyes, I continued the song. Matt placed his palms on Hank's shoulder, applying downward pressure on the squirming jerk. He was no match for an offensive lineman, even if Matt wasn't good enough to start. I bored holes into Hank's heartless eyes as his face paled. I turned back to Sharon, whose tears were leaking down her cheek. Lynette led the process server to her mother. Lynette has a remarkable voice, and she joined in for the finale. "Please don't cry, woman, 'cause it's much too late for tears. Yeah, I'm sorry too, 'cause it hurts after all these years. And ain't it sad? A love like ours should end this way. And all because I met a friend of yours today." She knew that I knew. Hell, everyone at the party figured it out. My heart was cold and emotionless, but there was venom in Lynette's voice as she stared daggers at her mother. The well-dressed gentleman handed a manila envelope to my soon-to-be ex. He had been instructed to over-dramatize the delivery. "Mrs. Sharon Carson, due to your affair with Hank Anderson, you have been served with divorce papers." Nathan made sure that Sharon sat still. Matt held Hank in place, which made it easier for Beth to slap the bastard. Try as he might, he couldn't avoid Beth's claws forever. He's lucky he didn't lose an eye. I don't think I've ever seen a woman that incensed. Sharon was unprepared for the right hook Beth connected just before she stormed out the door. Based on how limp she held her right hand, I think Beth may have injured her fist. Lynette caught up with Beth and gave her a copy of the investigator's report. As Lynette was sprinting towards Beth, Nathan threw Sharon into the pool. A moment later, Matt launched Hank for an unplanned swim. I put the guitar down as the caterer loudly announced, "The buffet is open! Come and get it!" My singing must have turned people off. Most skipped dinner and left. The homeless shelter will be getting several tins of food tonight. I hope they like fajitas and twice-baked beans. I'm keeping the churros as I suspect I'll be needing some comfort food. Sharon, dazed and bruised, climbed out of the pool and dripped a trail of water to the master bedroom. With Matt, Lynette, and Nathan at my side, we bid farewell to those fleeing the scene. When Sharon's mother approached with clenched fists, I knew trouble was brewing. "Chris, this is a sensitive matter and should have been handled privately." Before I could get my response out, Matt practically shouted, "Grandma, shut the hell up. Maybe you should have spent a little more time teaching morals to your daughter. She messed up the wedding and now she has to pay." Letting all of her friends and relatives know that what she promises and what she delivers are two very different things was more than appropriate. The fight was over. Her shoulders slumped as she silently turned and walked away. Sharon's father mouthed, "I'm sorry," as they left. Not surprisingly, the bedroom door was locked every time I checked. Matt, Nathan, and Lynette helped each other clean up as I started the process of the soon-to-be divorce. Having been warned by my divorce attorney to not transfer money destined for Sharon, I did the next best thing. I removed the credit cards, ATM cards, and cell phones from Sharon's purse. After tracking down the checkbook and lockbox key, I was pretty sure she'd been cut off from all of our money. Matt announced that one battery cable on Sharon's car had been disabled. At 6 a.m., I thought I heard the front door close. I was on the couch at the time, eyes closed, but no longer sleeping. Nathan and Lynette had gone back to their places last night, and Matt was sleeping in his room. I wasn't surprised when a livid Sharon stormed back into the house. "Chris, why won't my car start?" Loud enough to wake the dead, lightly groaning as I sat up on the couch. "Beats me. Do I look like Mr. Goodwrench to you?" "Where's my phone?" she asked. "I don't know. Have you checked the bottom of the pool? Kind of early to be tossing a hissy fit, isn't it?" I replied. "I have to get away for a few days. I made a mistake, but there's no reason we can't work through this," she answered. "Really? I won't dignify the mistake comment, but no, there won't be any reconciliation. I'd rather die a lonely man than live the rest of my life with you," I roared. There was no venom in my voice, but Sharon acted like she'd just been bitten by a python. "You just need a few days to cool down. That's why I have to get away," she replied. "So start walking. Get your attorney to talk with mine, and they can work out any issues you have with the proposed asset split." "That's it? Take it or leave it. Doesn't our 25 years together mean anything to you?" she asked. "Strange you should ask that, as it meant nothing to you. Now get the hell out of here or go lock yourself in the bedroom." As I stood and started towards Sharon, Matt appeared behind Sharon. "Dad, I'll take the trash out." Sharon was no match for Matt, who hoisted her onto his shoulders. He opened the sliding glass door as she beat on his back, and a few seconds later, I heard Sharon screaming, "Matt, put me down! I'm your mother! Matthew, don't you dare throw me into the pool! I mean it, Matt!" Which was followed by a loud splash. I couldn't contain my chuckle. Matt smiled at me when he entered the kitchen. "Dad, I'll keep an eye on her if you want to get dressed." Before I could respond, a dripping Sharon silently recreated last night's trail of water into the master bedroom. That door did not close softly. "Looks like the bedroom is currently occupied, Matt," I muttered as we both laughed. About 30 minutes later, Sharon left quietly. I suspected one of her friends in the neighborhood would place a call for her, and I wasn't disappointed. 30 minutes later, her mother loaded 2 suitcases into her trunk. Monday didn't work out very well for Sharon. She was transferred to a division 500 miles away. Take it or quit. She has a week to decide. It was Beth who spearheaded the change and also let me know about it. On Tuesday, after Sharon's attorney contacted mine, I was directed to get Sharon's car working and find or replace her phone. A half hour later, she was back in business. They didn't tell me I had to tell her that the problems were solved, so I didn't. That got me an admonishment from my lawyer the next day. Thursday evening, my kitchen was full. Matt and his girlfriend Lynette and her girlfriends, Nathan, and a few of his friends, both male and female. We were waiting for Sharon's arrival. She had called Wednesday night with way too late. "Can we talk?" I was tipping a tall neck while Nathan and his friends were passing a joint around. It's legal in our state. I don't partake, nor do I think my kids should. I had other battles to fight, so I said nothing. At least Matt and Lynette weren't participating. Sharon let herself in. She had gone out of her way to look pretty. Wearing a distraught look, she approached me. "I was hoping we could talk in private," she announced. Lynette jumped up. "Nonsense, Mom. We wanted you to meet some of the ladies we're trying to hook Dad up with." Gina, one of Lynette's girlfriends, added, "Yeah, Mrs. Carson, what kinds of things does Chris like in the bedroom? Some inside information could really improve my chances." Sharon raised her voice. "There's not going to be any hooking up while I'm still around." Matt stood up. Problem solved, as he grabbed Sharon's arm. "No! Matt, please let me go!" as Matt wrapped Sharon's kicking and pleading body around his neck. Sharon's 120 small frame was no match for Matt's weight room torso. Nathan slid the patio screen open. "Put me down now! Matthew James Carson, I'm not kidding! This is an expensive outfit, not the pool!" was followed by a loud splash. High-fiving Nathan as he came back in, Matt slid the sliding glass door closed and locked it. The creature from the backyard lagoon banged on the glass, screaming. She left through the side gate. Lynette met her out front, handing her the purse and phone she arrived with, but no towel. We heard a car horn blaring for 10 minutes before some red and blue lights lit up the evening sky. The car horn stopped, and a few minutes later I got a text from Sharon. "Can we meet at Denny's?" I couldn't resist. "The one near the community center pool?" I asked. "No, the one by the mall. Come alone," she replied. "When?" I asked. "In an hour. I need to change into dry clothes," she replied. "Maybe next time you should wear a swimsuit when you drop by the house," I joked, but it drew no response. We sat quietly for a few minutes after being seated at our table, and then Sharon began. "Why are you being this way, Chris?" The waitress at Denny's looked like she might finally feel like taking our order, so I waited to answer Sharon's question. "You're only granted an audience with these waitresses every once in a while, so you have to be prepared when it does happen." Once our orders were taken, I responded, "Haven't got a clue what you're talking about, Sharon." "You're treating me like a stranger. No emotion, no compassion, no nothing," she pleaded. "Happens when someone rips your heart out. Did you ever love me? Doesn't matter. 25 years and now I can't trust a single memory. Thanks for destroying everything." "Chris, don't think that. Not only did I love you, but I still do. I made a horrible—" I cut her off. "Save it!" "No." "It was over. I'd already told Hank we'd never meet again," she pleaded. "Like that changes anything? Never meeting again should have been ever meeting in the first place. You're right, it's over. Not you and Hank, you and me. I'm not giving up. And the kids? You've turned them against me." "Not true. Yes, I shared the investigator's report with them, but you not only cheated on me, you cheated on your family. I'm done with you, but maybe there's a chance with one or more of your children. Don't pin your hopes on Matt, as he seems to be taking this the hardest." "If you had kept this quiet, we could have worked it out," she answered. "If you had kept your wedding vows, we wouldn't have had to work it out," I roared. Sharon wouldn't look at me. She swiped across her eyes every once in a while. The other table's conversations were tame in comparison. As a minor surprise, our food was prepared rather quickly. We managed to eat in silence. Sharon meekly asked, "Can I move back home? Mom wants me to leave." "Locks haven't been changed. I don't plan on moving out of the master bedroom, and you're not welcome there. You'll have to convince one of the kids to let you use their old bedroom or sleep on the couch." "Thank you. I'm sorry. I really am," she apologized meekly. "Good for you. Leave. I'll pick up the check," I replied. "I don't know how you can be so emotionless. This is ripping me apart. Now you know how I felt when I discovered. I hope it hurts. I really do. Go, get lost," I roared. Sharon managed to choke out one more tearful, "I'm sorry," as she turned and left. I should be devastated, but I'm as calm as can be. The emotional shock had become my frontline defense. I am numb to my surroundings, just going through the motions. What happens when you wake up and that defense has deserted you? I dread the day Nathan relented and Sharon moved into his bedroom. We tiptoed around each other through the weekend. On Monday morning, Matt stuck his head into my room. It was as my 6 a.m. alarm clock chimed. "Hey, Dad, I've got an early test, so I'm out of here. Love you." "Drive safely. Love you too," I replied. I was still numb. Sitting up, I swung my legs over the edge, planting my feet on the cold floor. Down the hall, I heard the commotion. "Matt! I'm not dressed! Put me down!" I did have some emotions as I chuckled. "Matthew, don't do this!" as something crashed in the kitchen. The neighbors were awake now, as Sharon was saying things not found in the Bible. I also heard the splash. A minute later, Sharon appeared, looking like a wet nightgown contestant. I locked my bedroom door and took a shower. When I left for work, there was a trail of water in Nathan's bedroom. I thought I heard Sharon crying. On Tuesday night, Sharon announced that she had resigned but had a very good job offer from another firm. I listened, but said nothing. Wednesday morning, there was a repeat of the commotion down the hall. "Matthew, please! This is my first day on this job. I have to make a good impression. Put me down." It would make me blush to repeat some of the things that Sharon said, and she used to kiss me with that mouth. I left for work before Sharon. When I returned home, Sharon's things were gone. The short note on the bed read, "I can't live my life this way. Please tell Matt that I'm sorry and still love each and every one of you. Can't you find it in your heart to work this out?" I left the note on the kitchen counter, but I don't know if Matt ever read it. From the perspective of Sharon. My name is Sharon Carson. I'm living a nightmare, brought on by myself. At the wedding of my best office friend, I got drunk. Not falling down drunk, but stupid drunk. My husband, Chris, was away at the time, so I'd gone by myself. At the reception, most of the nearby bathrooms were occupied, so I found one in a remote part of the building. I failed to lock the door, and when Hank Anderson, the groom, entered, things got out of control quickly. With tickling, touching, and kissing, I found myself allowing Hank to do things that were reserved for Chris. When I came to my senses, I excused myself with some lame lie and went home. It was such a beautiful experience that I couldn't let it go. I didn't say anything to anyone. I tried to treat Chris the same, but it was Hank I was wanting. This was so stupid. It was just intimacy. Intimacy that should have never happened, but then it happened again. I don't know how, but Hank learned that Chris was out of town again. Hank sent flowers with a time and address to meet him. I told myself no, but ignored that warning and met Hank again. It wasn't nearly as good as the first time. We hooked up one more time, but my guilty conscience made it the worst love of my life. I told Hank that we weren't going to ever meet again. Then the summer party, where my world came crashing down. After treating me rudely for a few weeks, Chris had me served with divorce papers in front of friends and family. I basically lost my job the following Monday, as there was no way I was relocating. My children were hurt and upset with me. Chris was emotionless. This was killing me, and he was treating me like an unwelcome telemarketer call. My middle child, Matthew, was relentless. Every time he could, he would throw me into our backyard pool. With a new job and having to earn a living now, I was forced to find a place of my own. My parents let me stay with them for a few days, but my dad is an old-fashioned kind of guy and threw me out. Now I'm forced to learn a new job, deal with finances, and resolve legal matters with no support. I used to tell my kids that I expected them to come up with solutions if they were responsible for the problems. I'm forced to heed my own advice now. I don't like it, not one little bit. I want my family back. Switching back to the perspective of Chris. Lynette is up to something. She says that she purchased a 90-minute massage for me. How it was presented has made me suspicious. The masseuse is coming to my home, and Matt let me know he wouldn't be back tonight. My emotions are mostly on ice, although I am warming up to humor. I should be officially divorced sometime next month. Sharon has tried to get me to consider reconciliation, but even with counseling, I'm not interested. There is real pain in her eyes, but it has yet to affect me. The doorbell rang at 8 p.m. A woman who couldn't have been much older than Lynette was standing on my porch. She had a large black zippered sack, so I deduced her to be the masseuse. Wearing sweats, with her hair pulled back into a ponytail, she seemed upbeat. Physically, she was about 5'5" with a bit of a pear shape. Opening the door, I asked, "Can I help you?" "If you are Chris Carson, then yes. I'm Lily and I'm here to give you a massage," as she extended her small hand. My immediate thought was, "You're going to massage me with those small hands?" I'd later regret that thought. After stripping down to my clothes, I climbed onto the massage table face down. "Don't be so shy, Chris. I'll put a towel over your pretty little bum, but I don't want to do battle with these boxers." The next thing I felt was my boxes sliding off and a towel being loosely draped across my back. When Lily felt a knot, I paid the price. Those little hands knew how to inflict pain, and as I was about to find out, pleasure. Dripping some warm oil along my hamstrings, her hands were soon brushing against my body. I realized the towel had disappeared. I won't go into much detail due to some part of the policy here, but you get the idea where this is going. The massage was very pleasurable, and Lily knew how to tease as she did it. Using several hot towels, Lily cleaned the oil off our bodies. Then we snuggled. Then we made love. By the time it was over, it was past midnight. Handing me a scrap of paper with a handwritten note, "As I said, I'm not really a masseuse, but I really enjoyed myself this evening. That's my phone number. Call me if you want to do this again. I'm single. Lynette told me that you could use a little pick-me-up. I really did enjoy myself and hope you did too." As Lily was packing the massage table, I called her number. She giggled when she saw it was me. "This is Lily. This is Chris. When can you come over again?" I asked. "How about 2 weeks from tonight?" she answered. "Can't wait." Lily gave me a hug and a warm, wet kiss as she left. 2 weeks was a very long time to wait. Lily isn't interested in anything other than a sexual relationship, so we've been getting together about twice a month. When I suggested paying her for the massage, Lily forcefully told me that the only thing she would ever accept was my respect. That she has. Lily won't spend the night, and I'm starting to miss those morning and spontaneous romps. However, why get involved if you can find sexual relief with a friend with benefits, especially one who likes to give massages? My divorce crawled to a successful conclusion. I'm still afraid of starting a relationship with a woman, but am slowly coming out of my shell. I'm going to make it through this. Lynette and Sharon are on speaking terms. Matt can't be trusted around Sharon. Nathan is going to need at least another year to finish his degree. You can't live their lives for them. Sharon and I have had coffee a few times, but I make it very clear to her that I've moved on. I guess until I remarry, she'll probably keep apologizing. Hank, now divorced, had some nasty encounters with nail guns. Getting his feet nailed to the floor has left him with a noticeable limp. Hard to trace those 16D framing nails. He eventually got the hint and moved. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. "So, Tracy, do you mind if I call you Tracy?" Dr. Karen asked, and then without waiting for an answer, continued her question. "So, Tracy, what is it that you are hoping to get out of these sessions?" Based on her initial video consultation, she knew generally what the issues were in Briley's marriage, but she wanted Tracy to articulate what her goals and objectives were. Making sure that all parties were on the same page was a necessary first step in marriage counseling. This was her first session with the Brileys, Tracy and Jack. Although she had spoken with Tracy on a Zoom call, this was her first time seeing Tracy's husband. Jack Briley stood a couple of inches over 6 feet and was lean, with the body of a runner rather than someone who spent hours in the gym bulking up. Clean-shaven with thick blonde hair worn a little long on his collar. Tracy Briley was shorter at maybe 5'5" or 6, and Karen guessed her weight to be in the 125-pound range. She, too, had blonde hair, which today was being worn in a ponytail that ended between her shoulder blades. Medium-sized breasts and fantastic legs were shown off by the black pencil skirt and heels. The tanned legs were the legs of an athlete. Muscular calves that her 4-inch heels showed off to a nice effect. My husband has become controlling and emotionally abusive. He is constantly trying to violate my right to privacy. Jack has become insanely jealous, and his controlling and manipulative behavior has gotten out of hand. My goal in marriage counseling is to assure Jack that he has nothing to worry about and that his controlling behavior needs to end. Karen watched Jack's face as his wife described the problem from her point of view. His face was expressionless and almost detached as his wife spoke. Karen could very easily see him being a controlling asshole. "Thank you, Tracy. Jack, let's build on what Tracy said. Tell me, what do you see as the problem in your marriage?" Jack Briley locked eyes with Karen and then turned his eyes to watch his wife. He then spoke with a flat, unemotional tone. "My wife is having an emotional affair with her supervisor. I want her to quit her job and never have contact with him again." Tracy rolled her eyes in disgust. "You see what I'm talking about? I get this same nonsense day in and day out, and I am sick of it." Tracy spat out the last part in a mix of anger and frustration. Karen swiveled towards Jack. "That's a very inflammatory accusation, Jack. I do have a couple of questions for you. Why do you consider her relationship with her supervisor to be an affair, and what evidence do you have?" Jack sat back in his chair and looked at first Tracy and then the marriage counselor. "I'll answer, but first I have a couple of questions for you if you don't mind. Tracy chose you and met with you, but I never got a chance to speak with you." Karen gave him an appraising look. "You can ask me a couple of questions. If I think they are inappropriate, I will simply refuse to answer them." "Fair enough." Jack again locked eyes with Karen. "Are you married?" "No, I am not married," Karen replied. "Have you ever been married?" Karen was generally uncomfortable speaking about her personal life, but she also knew that the hallmark of a good counselor was the ability to be open and vulnerable with clients, to an extent. "Yes, I have been married, however. I've been divorced for several years now." Karen was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with this line of questioning. "Why did you get divorced?" Jack asked. Okay, now the questions were completely inappropriate, Karen thought to herself. Before Karen could respond, Jack asked a follow-up question. "Was there infidelity involved?" "My marriage is not relevant to your marriage. Your marriage and my marriage are in no way alike, and the breakdown of my marriage is not something we will be discussing further." Karen could tell she was coming off as angry and not compassionate. She had to get a handle on her emotions. Why did Jack Briley have to go to that sore spot? "I'm going to take that as yes," Jack replied. "Yes, there was infidelity involved," Karen said, her lips compressed into a pale, thin, hard line. "Thank you for your honesty," Jack replied. "The reason I say that this is an emotional affair is because not only do they see each other all day at work, but they're constantly texting each other at night and on the weekend. Every time we're out, she spends most of her time on her phone with her boss. She refuses to show me her texts and turns her phone away from me so that I cannot see what she is doing. She sleeps with her phone under her pillow and takes it into the bathroom with her. We haven't had intimacy in 3 months, and if she is not sleeping with her boss now, I know she'll be in bed with him soon." Karen looked at Tracy. This was a much different spin on the story than what Tracy had related to her over Zoom. "Tracy, is Jack accurate in what he is saying?" Tracy again had an angry, disgusted look on her face. "No, I text with a lot of people. I have family and friends that I trade messages with. He is just being sad and pathetic. He wants to control me and not let me have any friends. Jack, do you have any evidence to support what you are accusing Tracy of? Jack reached into the backpack that he had placed on the floor as he had taken his seat at the beginning of the session. He extracted several pages and handed them to Karen. "What am I looking at?" Karen asked. "That's our phone bill from 4 months ago. If you look at page 4, that's where Tracy's cell phone details begin. It ends on page 5. You can count them if you want, but she has a little over 300 total texts that month, mostly to me, her sisters, and her mom." "What are you doing, Jack? You're proving my point for me," Tracy said. She had sat silently so far, but Jack was really starting to piss her off with this bull. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out another document. This one noticeably thicker. "This is our last month's phone bill." Jack handed the pages to Karen. "Tracy's cell phone detail begins on page 4, just like the other one. Tell me what page it ends on." Karen thumbed through the pages and looked up in surprise. "Page 12. There are 7 more pages of text on this bill than the other bill you showed me." "Correct. Now look at the phone numbers," Jack replied. "It's almost all the same number," Karen replied. "It looks like thousands of texts to the same number." Karen turned towards Tracy. "Tracy? I text my boss. So what? We have a really good relationship and he gets me. But I am not cheating on you. I am not having an affair," Tracy shouted at Jack. Karen looked at Jack, whose expression was the opposite of Tracy's. While she was agitated and emotional, he was calm and almost placid in his demeanor. "Prove it," Jack said. That statement brought both Tracy and Karen up short. It wasn't up to Tracy to prove she wasn't having an affair. It was up to Jack to prove she was having an affair. "How can I prove I'm not doing something? You can't prove a negative. Asking me to do that is as ridiculous as you thinking I am having an affair." "You can prove it to my satisfaction," Jack said, sticking out his hand. "All you have to do is let me read your texts." Tracy looked towards Karen. "Can you believe what I have to deal with? This is what I meant when I said I have no privacy." She rolled her eyes at Jack. "Fine. You want to read my texts?" Tracy reached into her purse and pulled out her iPhone. "Go for it. Afterward, you can apologize to me and drop this whole ridiculous topic." She handed her phone to Jack after unlocking the screen. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out a laptop and a cable. He plugged one end of the cable into Tracy's iPhone and the other end into the laptop. He then opened the laptop. "What are you doing?" Tracy asked. She had a panicked look on her face. "I purchased recovery software for iPhones. This will restore all deleted texts, photos, and videos." Jack punched a couple of buttons on his laptop and watched the screen. "No!" Tracy shrieked and lunged for her phone, grabbing it from Jack. She ripped her phone out of his hand and the sync cable along with it. Karen was startled by Tracy's sudden reaction. Jack seemed to expect it. "I am not going to let you violate my privacy," Tracy shouted. "Tracy, this doesn't look good for you. It makes it seem like you are hiding things," Karen said. "I have a right to privacy." She looked at Jack. "I'm your wife. You have to trust me." Karen looked at Jack. "She is right about that. If you don't trust her, you don't have a marriage. Everyone deserves privacy." Jack looked from Karen to Tracy and then back towards Karen. "Do you know the difference between privacy and secrecy?" "I don't know, Jack. Why don't you explain it to us?" Tracy said with a vaguely aggressive tone. "Everyone's entitled to privacy in a marriage. You want to use the bathroom behind a closed door? That's privacy. You want to keep a diary or journal? That's privacy. You see, privacy doesn't affect the marriage. It doesn't help the marriage, nor does it hurt the marriage. Privacy has a completely neutral effect on a marriage. You can't say the same thing about secrecy. When you have relationships and conversations with members of the opposite sex, and you exclude your spouse, then you have gone beyond privacy and are now leading a secret life." Secrecy is harmful to a marriage. You know as well as I do that the texts you have exchanged with your boss will hurt me and will hurt our marriage. That is why you will not let me see them. You know that if I see what the two of you are saying and doing that, I will file for divorce. Tracy had tears running down her face. That's not true. Some of our texts may have crossed the line a little, but I have not cheated on you. I am not going to cheat on you. Tracy sobbed softly. Where does that leave us, Jack? Karen asked. The counseling goals that you stated at the beginning of our session left little room for compromise. Are you going to forbid Tracy from working? You mean make rules? Jack shook his head. She's an adult. Just as he had asked about privacy versus secrecy, Jack had another question for the counselor. Do you know the difference between rules and boundaries? Karen nodded. I do. But why don't you tell us what you are thinking? Rules are what you make for other people. You must do this or you can't do that. Making rules for children is one thing, but you can't make rules for adults. What you can do is set boundaries for yourself and create consequences when someone crosses those boundaries. For example, I am not comfortable when you do that. If you continue to make me uncomfortable, then there will be consequences. You see, boundaries are for your own protection. What are you saying, Jack? Tracy had stopped crying, but her face was still wet from her tears. The same thing I said at the beginning. Your continued employment at this job and your relationship with your supervisor make me feel unsafe in our marriage and uncomfortable in our relationship. If you continue to make me feel unsafe and uncomfortable, then there will be consequences. Tracy and Karen looked at each other and then looked at Jack. You can't make me quit my job, Tracy said. Wouldn't even try. That would be making a rule. I'm not making any rules for you. But if I don't quit, there'll be consequences, you said. Correct, Jack replied. How is that not making a rule? You're forcing a decision upon me that you made, Tracy cried out in frustration. I don't see it that way. You have a choice. Continue actions that make me feel unsafe and uncomfortable, or end those actions in order to make me feel safe and comfortable. The choice is entirely yours. What are the consequences? Karen asked. Excuse me? Jack responded. You laid out what your boundaries were and said there would be consequences for crossing those boundaries. I think it's reasonable for Tracy to know about the consequences of her crossing your boundaries. Why, so she can do a cost-benefit analysis of crossing my boundaries, so she can decide if the juice is worth the squeeze? Jack shook his head. That's not the way this works. She just needs to know that there will be consequences. Besides, even if she knew in advance what the consequences were, do you think that would stop her? Yes, they would, Tracy said. She had stopped crying and wiped her face. What's the most severe legal penalty that can be given for a crime? Jack asked. The death penalty? I don't think you can kill me for crossing a so-called boundary, Tracy laughed. Jack gave a mirthless smile. I wouldn't even if you deserved it, but you're correct about the death penalty. For several crimes, the death penalty is on the table, and yet people still commit those crimes. Knowing in advance what the consequences are for those crimes does not seem to prevent criminals from committing those crimes. They just try to do a better job of hiding the crime. So no, I'm not telling you what the consequences of crossing my boundaries are. What is that internet acronym? FAFO? F*** around, find out, Tracy mumbled. That's all the time we have for today, so on that pleasant note, we'll stop today's session. We have another session scheduled 2 weeks from today. I have a really good feeling about what we accomplished today. This was Karen's go-to session wrap-up line. Truthfully, she had no idea what Jack was thinking. Tracy stood up smiling at her husband, but Jack just looked at her sadly and shook his head. You missed a really good session 2 weeks ago, Karen said. Tracy said that you had to suddenly go out of town on business. I told him that we had a really productive meeting, Tracy said to Karen. I feel much better about our marriage going forward. Jack seemed even more relaxed this session than he had the last session. That session he seemed sad and resigned. This session he was almost cheerful. This session would be a good one. Karen thought. Tracy began. One of the things Dr. Karen and I talked about was transparency and how important that is in a marriage. Tracy pushed her cell phone towards Jack. You can go through it and recover my texts, Tracy said. Thank you, Tracy, Jack said with a grin. That's not necessary. I'm pretty sure that by now you've done a factory reset on your phone. You certainly seem much happier than at our last session, Karen said. The way that the session ended had me very concerned for you. Jack waved off her concerns. I'm in a much better state of mind now than I was then. Ever since he got home from his out-of-town business trip, he's been much more relaxed and happier, Tracy said. I think the trip was good for him. And me, Tracy said cheerfully. You both seem much happier today. I don't believe either one of you smiled during our last joint session, Karen said. She does have a beautiful smile, doesn't she? Jack asked. Her smile just lights up the room. Karen nodded at Tracy's happily smiling face. Her blinding smile gave proof to Jack's compliment. I always loved making her smile. I must have 1,000 photos on my phone of Tracy smiling. Let me show you my favorite picture of her. This is Tracy's smile at her happiest. Jack pulled out his cell phone and held it up so they could see the photo. It was a photo of a smiling Tracy. She looked radiant. Her shining eyes expressed the joy that she felt in life, and her laughing eyes let you know that this was a person completely and totally happy with their life. Jack looked up at Tracy. Do you remember this one, Han? You look so happy in this picture. I don't remember exactly where that was taken, Tracy replied as she made a pinching gesture with her thumb and forefinger. Can you shrink it down? You bet, Jack said. Still holding his cell phone so that it faced Tracy and Karen, Jack slowly made the pinching gesture on the screen. As Karen and Tracy watched, the photo of Tracy started shrinking as the background took shape. As Tracy got smaller, you could tell that she was a few feet in front of a door. As Tracy continued to shrink, an arm came into view with its hand on the doorknob. As Tracy continued to shrink down, the full image of the person behind her took form. Baby, let me explain, Tracy said. Her sobs soon turned to hyperventilation as she began to understand what she was seeing. Jack ignored her as he continued to pinch his phone screen. It was obviously Tracy exiting a motel room with a man. Tracy started wailing. Her supervisor? Karen asked sadly. You got it in one. And look at that timestamp, 4 hours after her session with you. Jack made a flicking gesture across the phone's screen. It was another photo of Tracy in front of the motel door, this time entering. Look at that timestamp. Less than an hour after your session with her ended, she was in a motel room with the person that she said she would never cheat on me with. Nice job of marriage counseling. I don't think you get credit for the save. Tracy wailed even louder at hearing this. I am so sorry, baby. We can fix this. It meant nothing. I will quit my job. We can work on saving our marriage. Jack smiled and shook his head. Those consequences you wanted to know about? Well, guess what they are. I am going to divorce you. That's a given. I no longer want you to quit your job. You're going to need the income. Jack handed Tracy a business card. This is my attorney's contact information. You need to find yourself an attorney and give him my guy's information. Before coming here, I had all your belongings packed up and dropped off at your parents' house. They are not happy with you, but they have agreed that you can stay with them. The house was mine before we were married, so it will not be part of the settlement, and I don't want you there. After today, I never want to see you again. At this, Tracy went into a full-blown meltdown as Jack stood and walked to the door. Karen looked like she was in shock. Are you going to do anything about your wife? Jack shook his head. You mean my soon-to-be ex-wife? No, she's your problem. You had the chance to hold her accountable and you didn't take it. You made such a great impression on her last session that she immediately went out and cheated on me after leaving you. By the way, I found out that when you said that your marriage ended due to infidelity, it was actually your infidelity, not your husband's. The reason I bring this up is because I think marriage counseling is not the best fit for you. Jack stood and walked to the office exit. He looked down at Tracy. She sat on the floor, hugging herself and rocking back and forth as she kept repeating, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." He shook his head at the sorry scene and walked out the door. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.